And again, right here, this is crazy. That said, in their 11th year of existence as an FBS program, they were the number 2 team in the country. What is up, everybody? It is Jake with Master Football, back at it again. Happy Thursday. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be up to date on all things college football, EA college football, pro football, Madden, anything like that, basically, if you like football, hit the red subscribe button. You will not be disappointed. It's not going to cost you anything. All it's going to cost you is being up to date on everything EA college football, pro, Madden, anything like that. You will like it. Hit the red subscribe button. Also hit the like button, too. Without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, guys, so I am over here. I've done a couple of videos, and we saw a couple of recent movements with, conference realignment and things here in terms of what we want to do. San Diego State looks like it is, again, strongly rumored. Okay, we had Dan Patrick say one thing, and then a couple other people saying, not so sure about that. San Diego State might go to the Pac-12. There's also reports out there possibly that SMU is interested in joining the Pac-12 just because it gives you that Dallas market, easy integration with the rest of the league, things like that. However, I want to talk about something a little sadder here. And actually, my boy Chris Vanini over at The Athletic, I thought about this earlier this weekend when I saw a store, and then he actually made an article about it. But again, credit to Chris. He beat me to it. Again, it's easy to say, oh, I thought about that, until you actually make the content. Here's what the content is. So this came out on Sunday, November 6th, 2022. 15 years ago, USF was the number 2 team in the country. The potential was limitless. How it built up so fast, and how it fell apart, and where things are now. Basically going over that, and we are going to go over that number 2 ranking because it is shocking how they get there. But first, let's go and see how South Florida is doing so far. So again, that article came out on a Sunday, and we see over here the fact that that's Saturday they lost at Temple. So they are currently 1-8. They're not bowl eligible. They're going to play SMU. They are not favored in that game. And then they play a ranked UCF team, and then they play at Tulsa. So they either play good teams or they play on the road. It is going to be a tough time for them. We might be looking at a double-digit loss season. And the really, really crazy thing about that is you look at South Florida, it was an absolute upward trajectory for the longest time. Again, you see here the first season was 1997. That's insane. 1997 was their first season in FBS football. They played in the FBS football right there. And then you come down here and see this. It was just a meteoric rise for them. In 1997, Jim Leavitt, previously the co-defensive coordinator at Kansas State, was hired as the team's first head coach. Their first meeting was held under a shade tree as the school had no proper football facilities on campus. They were in the FCS, and then their last year in the FCS, they beat James Madison, who is now going to be an FBS team, Western Kentucky, who's now an FBS team, and Troy State, now an FBS team, as well as Connecticut. They're an FBS team, but nobody really considers that for them. But you see the fact they moved to FBS in 2001, where they were independent, and then they joined Conference USA, and they did a pretty good job of going up from there. The Jim Leavitt era was really, really solid. He was fired after an investigation that revealed during halftime game of a game against Louisville, he grabbed a player by the shoulder pads and struck him in the face. It says he was trying to console him, but it was wrongful termination. Eventually, the school settled with Leavitt for $2.75 million. I'm betting that means that they fired him, they gave him $2.75. That turns into one of those situations where he did some things wrong, but they kind of fired him a little too early, but this or that, I don't know. But again, $2.75 million was the settlement for him. Going to the Skip Holtz era, it was not good. The Willie Taggart era actually was really good, and then Charlie Strong was not good. And then we had the Jeff Scott era, and Jeff Scott was just fired on November 6th this last weekend when that article came out. And we see the history of the record. And again, you can come down here and check this out. So this is their FBS record. 2000 was the first season. 7-4, 8-3, 9-2. Joined Conference USA 7-4, and then 4-7. Then they go to the Big East after 2 years in the Conference USA. 6-6, 9-4, 9-4, 8-5. 8-5, and then Jim Leavitt is ultimately fired. Then we go over here, we have Skip Holtz at 8-5, and then 5-7, 3-9, and then Willie Taggart takes over. Willie Taggart, and again, one of these things, we'll actually look at Willie Taggart's history. If you get a good thing going, there's no guarantee that you're going to recreate that magic anywhere else. Again, for the most part, you should, but that's no guarantee that it will. He starts off 2-10, 4-8, 8-5, and then 11-2. He leaves before the conference or the bowl game. Before they won the Birmingham Bowl, and he goes over to Oregon for 1 year, and then he goes to Florida State. He ultimately did not do very well there, and then Charlie Strong went 10-2 in his first year with a lot of Willie Taggart's guys, and then 7-6, and then 4-8, And then Jeff Scott went 1-8, 2-10, and 1-8 right now, and he has been fired. Daniel DePrado is looking potentially at an 0-3 stretch here, so they might lose 10 games and 11 games in back-to-back seasons. And like I said before, with Willie Taggart does a pretty good job. He took over Western Kentucky, went 2-10, and then 7-5, went to South Florida, went 2-10, 4-8, 8-5, 10-2, and then 7-5 at Oregon, went to Florida State, 5-7, 4-5, and then went to Florida Atlantic right now, 5-4, 5-7, and 4-5. So again, that magic here, you see that blue, the only spot you see that right there, 19 ranking in the AP and the coaches poll, was not able to do much with that beyond that there, but he had a good thing going and he ultimately left. I also think it's a big factor here, especially when we talk about conference realignment, because the Big East, man, there is absolutely positively the haves and the have-nots from the Big East. Checking this out, and again, you come down here and see all these things here, where this bluish purple is going to be a full member with a football team, and then the red is going to be football members too. So you see, check this out. So we had, back in the day, it was Boston College, UConn, Georgia, Providence, St. John's, Seton Hall, Syracuse, Villanova, Pittsburgh, and then ultimately Miami joined for a little bit there, and then Rutgers, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, Temple, they joined for a little bit, and then Notre Dame joined as a partial member, and then we had, in 2005, Cincinnati, DePaul, Louisville, Marquette, and South Florida. So of the football members here, you see how these definitely go in a lot of different directions here. Boston College, I would say they are a have. They went to the ACC. They're sitting pretty right there. I know the ACC deal might not be super popular, but I would consider them a have in this instance. UConn, I would consider them a have-not. They ultimately stayed in this conference. However, they are now independent, and a lot of people are saying they might drop football, and this like they won't join the American. There's a couple of weird things there. The American was a roll-off from the Big East. And then you see over here with Syracuse. Syracuse joined the ACC. They are one of the haves. You see Pittsburgh, they joined the ACC, one of the haves. Miami left for the ACC, one of the haves. Rutgers left for the Big Ten, which is definitely a have. West Virginia left for the Big 12, which I think, at first after they had the irate 8 situation, now that is no longer here anymore. They are not irate. They're actually doing great because Brett Yormark is doing really, really well at UCF, BYU, Houston, and Cincinnati. So they're sitting really pretty there. So West Virginia is one of the haves too. Then Virginia Tech, ACC, one of the haves. Temple, ugh. So you see here football only until 2013, and independent, and then the MAC, and then back to the Big East, and then they went to, now they're in the American. I would consider the American, it's a solid conference. It's the best. I would say it's the best, even me being a Mountain West fan. It's the best of the group of 5 teams, but it is definitely not a have in this instance. Cincinnati was not a have, and now they are a have, joining the Big 12 this next season. Louisville went to the ACC, they're a have. And then there's South Florida. So if you look at this progression right here, of the haves and the have-nots, the have-nots are UConn, Temple, South Florida. UConn, again, probably the most have-not because they're not even, in a league right now. And then Temple, and then South Florida. Considering how far they've gone, remember, this team used to be the number 2 team in the country. And again, right here, this is crazy. That said, in their 11th year of existence as an FBS program, they were the number 2 team in the country. This came after big wins over West Virginia, big wins over Auburn. There's a lot of big wins this last season. They did ultimately lose their next 3 games in a row, which then tanked that ranking there. But they were 6-0, the number 2 team in the country. You see how Boston College was number 3. Kentucky, Arizona State. Arizona State, man, if you could only just manage that. But yeah, 2007, their 11th year in FBS football, they are not there anymore. A big reason why this is so weird is because you see USF and UCF. So UCF over in Orlando, then they were in the MAC for a little bit, and they were kind of bouncing around here and there. Whereas like USF was like, oh, excuse me, we are over here in the Big East in the American. And then now it's UCF was the one that was picked to go to the Big 12. They had the bounce house, a lot of alumni, lots of things going on for them. They're really, really growing well. Whereas USF, again, you have to remember that they play at Raymond James Stadium, which is an off-campus. It's a pro stadium, don't get me wrong, but it's off-campus. It's hard to get that, on-campus environment with a lot of students and this and that. So there's a lot of issues there, but they've been trying to invest in their football program. They've been doing some things there, but you can still see that the program is down right now. They're trying to get it back. They're trying, and remember, I think that there was a rumor before that was the next 4 teams of Big 12 expansion, because they were thinking about, they did the first four, and then they did the next 4. The next 4 was Boise State, Memphis, USF, and SMU. SMU is rumored right now to be looking at the Pac-12, so that might be off the table. Memphis and Boise State were, kind of more strongly hinted at than South Florida and SMU. SMU might be off the block. Boise State and Memphis are still waiting. But I don't think anybody's really fighting over South Florida right now, and you can see the fact that it's even hurting their recruiting rankings. So this is in 2020. Right now, they are the 91st team in recruiting right now. That's behind Kent State, Toledo, Wyoming. I mean, they're right next to Wyoming, Louisiana Tech. Now, again, they have 12 commits, so the lower amount of commits usually hurts this, but at the same time, they really just don't have a lot to go for them. Now, again, this is one of those teams that can turn it around really, really quickly. But, man, I mean, where they were, what was that, 2007? That is 15 years ago. They're the number 2 team in the country, and now they are squabbling. They're just having a really bad time. There's been talks of an on-campus stadium. There's been talks of, a lot more investment in the football program. You see the fact, remember there, that Memphis talked about updating Liberty Pole. Boise State talked about expanding, Albertson Stadium. SMU is investing in their football program. It's same with USF. Once they kind of found out that, you need at least 40,000 seats in a stadium and this and that to be more attractive to those big-time conferences. So they're trying, but I think that, man, it's just what if? What if they had really sold down and they got to that number 2 ranking and they were really like, we're going to be a football program. We are going to invest in a football program. We're going to invest in this. We're going to go off of an on-campus, we're going to create an on-campus stadium. We're going to do things like that. And what if they had did that? I don't know, man, because, again, a Florida team, it's prime recruiting territory, easy to get over there from Miami. It's in Tampa. It's not too far from Orlando. There's a lot of good football players in that region. A lot of them are leaving, though, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of buy-in from anybody. There's a couple of crazy fans out there. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate you crazy fans. But, man, what could have been South Florida? All right, guys, get in the comments right now. What do you think about South Florida? Do you think they can turn around? Do they really care or not? Get in the comments right now and let me know what you guys think. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. I really appreciate it. That's it for me for today. I am out.